Namaste students. In the previous class, you have studied the structure of the nephron as well as how the blood will supply to the nephron region. In today's class, you are going to study how the urine will form in the nephron. There are important processes takes place that are ultrafiltration, reabsorption, tubular secretion. These processes are very important for the formation of urine. And also we can say some physical properties of urine and which are the hormones are important for this reabsorption and abnormal constituent in urine. So these things we are going to study in today's class. Formation or production of urine occurs in three major steps. First one, ultrafiltration. Second one, reabsorption. And third one, tubular secretion. First, we can study ultrafiltration. The blood flows through the glomerulus under great pressure. This is because greater pressure is that the efferent arteriole is narrower than the afferent arteriole. Here, afferent arteriole supplies the blood and then it form a network of blood capillaries that is called glomerulus, and once again it rejoin, it form efferent arteriole. Here afferent arteriole is wider, efferent arteriole is narrower. Because of the difference in the diameter of this arteriole, high pressure will create in the glomerulus region. That pressure is called hydrostatic pressure. So reason for this hydrostatic pressure is difference in the diameter of the afferent and efferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole is wider and efferent arteriole is narrower. So because of this difference, high pressure will create in the glomerulus region. Because of this high pressure, the liquid part of the blood it filtered out. The liquid part of the blood is filtered out from the glomerulus because of this high pressure. When this filter out, that part will enter inside the renal tubule. So when the liquid part is filtered out from the glomerulus, then it enter inside the Bowman's capsule, then it goes to the renal tubule. This filtration is called ultrafiltration, because the filtration of blood takes place under extraordinary force, or it takes place under high pressure. That's why it is called as ultrafiltration. During the ultrafiltration, almost all the liquid content of blood consisting of plasma and other organic and inorganic products like glucose, amino acids, urea are passes into the Bowman's capsule from the glomerulus. So when the filtration of blood takes place at that time, the glucose part, amino acids, urea and plasma content, they will filter out and enters inside the Bowman's capsule region. The fluid entering this Bowman's capsule region or the renal tubule region is called glomerular filtrate, or it is called as nephric filtrate. The fluid entering the renal tubule is called the glomerular filtrate or nephric filtrate. This glomerular filtrate or nephric filtrate contains plasma, organic, inorganic substances including urea, glucose, amino acids, etc. Now, here when the filtration takes place, first it enters inside the cavity of the Bowman's capsule, then it enters inside the renal tubule region. The thicker part of the blood left behind in the glomerulus after ultrafiltration. So after ultrafiltration, so whatever the part is left out in the glomerulus, they are very thick and that enters inside the efferent arteriole. The thicker part of the blood left behind in glomerulus after ultrafiltration, they are enter inside the efferent arterioles. And why it is thick? Because it contains only blood corpuscles, proteins and other large molecules, and also it contains a small quantity of water. Almost the liquid part is filtered out, so whatever the large molecules are there, whatever the thick parts are there, it is left behind. So that's why whatever the after ultrafiltration, whatever the content is left behind in the glomerulus, it is very thick because it contains the blood corpuscles, proteins and other large molecules as well as a small quantity of water. And this thick part, then it is enters inside the efferent arteriole, and this blood is proceeding away from the glomerulus and it is very thick. The ultrafiltration is the process in which filtration takes place under hydrostatic pressure. That's why it is called as a ultrafiltration. The filtration of the blood takes place under high pressure, that is hydrostatic pressure. That's why it is called ultrafiltration. You can observe in the diagram, efferent arteriole, it is a wider one. Efferent arteriole is narrower one. So, when the blood enters through the efferent arteriole, then in the glomerulus, the filtration of the blood takes place because of the difference in the diameter of efferent and efferent arteriole. So, whatever the filter part is there, that is liquid part, it will enters inside the renal tubule region, that is called glomerular filtrate or nephric filtrate. And whatever the blood is left behind in the glomerulus, then it enters inside the efferent arteriole. Next, reabsorption. During ultrafiltration, even those substances which are valuable to the body diffuse out. Almost all glucose, amino acids and some inorganic salts are reabsorbed from the nephric filtrate in the PCT, that is in the proximal convoluted tubule. Our body requires the glucose and some of the inorganic salts, so it will reabsorption takes place in the PCT from the glomerular filtrate or nephric filtrate. In the ascending limb of loop of Henle, active absorption of sodium chloride takes place without water. If blood contains excess water, the reabsorption of water is less and urine is dilute. But in case the amount of water in blood is less, more water is reabsorbed from the filtrate. Thus, the kidney help in osmoregulation. And in the loop of Henle, the absorption of water takes place. Whatever the water is also is filtered out, the absorption of water takes place in the loop of Henle. The liquid entering the renal tubule is extremely dilute and consists of useful materials, especially glucose and sodium. While the glomerular filtrate passes down the tubule, selective reabsorption of water along with the useful substances takes place. The reabsorption is termed selective reabsorption as it takes place maintaining the normal concentration of the blood. To maintain the normal concentration of the blood, so whatever the content is there in the glomerular filtrate, the reabsorption process takes place. Especially water as well as the some important salts as well as the glucose also takes place. Here, how it maintains the concentration of blood. So, when it reabsorption takes place through the blood, it enters inside the interstitial cells. So, between the space is there, no, it is filled by the cells, that is called interstitial cells. So, in the interstitial cells, the reabsorption process, whatever the content will come, it is utilized by these interstitial cells with the help of these blood capillaries. Next, tubular secretion. The cells of the tubular wall also secrete specific enzymes that help in the active transport of solute. During the secretion, substances like K+, potassium ion, hydrogen ion, as well as the NH4+ and creatinine are added to the filtrate. It helps in removal of toxic substances from the body and also helps in maintaining the pH of blood. The activity of tubular cells is involved in this passage, thus it is called as tubular secretion. So during the tubular secretion, certain substances like potassium ion in the normal course and a large number of foreign chemicals including some of the drugs like penicillin are passed into the forming urine in the distal convoluted tubule. This passage involves the activity of the cells of the tubular wall, hence it is called as tubular secretion. So whatever we are taking the medicine, so after killing the germ, it will come out from our body. How it will come out? It will join in the urine, and in the form of urine it will come out from our body. So that is a tubular secretion. In the diagram you can see steps in urine formation. In glomerulus, ultrafiltration takes place, and in Bowman's capsule receives the glomerular filtrate, and in the PCT reabsorption of water takes place, as well as the glucose and sodium and chloride ions also takes place, and in the loop of Henle absorption of water and sodium ions also takes place, and in the DCT reabsorption of remaining chlorides and some water takes place, as well as secretes the potassium and foreign chemicals are added to the urine. Here, the filtrate left after the reabsorption and tubular secretion is called urine. After the reabsorption and tubular secretion process, what is the liquid is left out, that is called as a urine. Next, urine excretion. The liquid that passes into the collecting tubule is termed as final urine. Ducts formed by the fusion of collecting tubules releases the urine into the renal pelvis from where it is passed into the ureter. Here, collecting tubule or collecting duct, it receives the urine from the different nephrons. It has branches, you can see. So it collects the urine from the different nephrons, and that urine later is passes into the renal pelvis region. From the renal pelvis, the urine then enter inside the ureter. The movement of urine from the ureter to the urinary bladder takes place due to ureteral peristalsis. Here peristalsis means wave of constriction in the ureter takes place. This wave of constriction, it passes the urine to the next region, that is to the urinary bladder. The backflow of urine is blocked by the valve formed by the ureter at the base of urinary bladder. Here the valve is there in the base of urinary bladder. That valve, it prevents the backflow of the urine. Here the contraction of urinary bladder and the relaxation of sphincter muscles results in the removal of urine from the bladder. Here urinary bladder undergo the contraction and the sphincter muscle undergo the relaxation. At that time, the urine is passes from the urinary bladder then to the urethra region. And this takes place under the impulse from the nervous system. So this process is called micturition. Micturition nothing but the expulsion of the urine from the bladder through the urethra. Here expulsion of urine from the bladder through the urethra is called as micturition. It takes place under the influence of nervous system. Next, physical properties of urine. First one, color. It is a clear yellow in color due to the pigment urochrome. The urochrome gives the color to the urine. That pigment is the urochrome. It gives a yellow color. It is also varies depending upon our diet. Next, volume, nearly 1 to 1.5 liters per day, but it is also varies. pH, it is between 5 to 8. Usually it is acidic. If protein diet makes it more acidic, and while vegetable diet makes it alkaline. It is also depending upon our diet. Odor, on standing, the smell of urine becomes strong, ammonia-like due to bacterial activity. Otherwise, faint smell. So, because of this some bacterial activity, the urine will get the ammonia-like odor. Otherwise, there is no that much smell. Next, constituents of urine. The normal human urine consists of about 95% of water and 5% of solid waste dissolved in it. The percentage of the solid waste may slightly vary according to the food taken and according to the time after taking food, but usually these are approximately in grams per liter of urine as follows. Here we can see the organic and inorganic constituent. Organic, urea 2.3 gram per liter, creatinine 1.5, uric acid 0.7 and other 2.6. Inorganic, sodium chloride 9.0, potassium chloride 2.5, ammonia 0.6, other 2.5. Besides the normal constituents, the urine may pass out certain hormones and also certain medicines like the antibiotics and the excess vitamins. So if you consume some of the medicine, so afterwards it will after the action inside our body, it will come out in the form of a urine also, as well as excess vitamins as well as the hormones also come out from our body in the form of urine. Next, abnormal constituents in urine. First one, hematuria. In this condition, blood passes with urine due to some infection in urinary tract, kidney stones or tumor. So, because of the infection in urinary tract, or it may be for kidney stone or it may be for the tumor, along with the urine, the blood also passes. That condition is called hematuria. Next, glycosuria. In this condition, excess glucose is passed with urine. It is found in individuals suffering from diabetes. Those who are diabetes, those who are suffering from the diabetes, in their urine, glucose content also pass. So that condition is called glycosuria. Next, albumin. It is found when an individual is suffering from high blood pressure or when the bacterial infection increases the permeability of Bowman's capsule. So here the permeability of Bowman's capsule increases. It may be because of bacterial infection or because of high blood pressure. Next, bile pigments. It is found in the urine of an individual suffering from anemia or hepatitis or liver cirrhosis. So those who are suffering from anemia, hepatitis or liver cirrhosis, it is found that urine of an individual in that bile pigments also passes. So this is the called as bile pigments. Next, pus cells. Presence of pus cells in urine is called pyuria. Presence of the pus cells in the urine, that condition is called pyuria. Sometimes uric acid is relatively less soluble in water. and may crystallize and get deposited in the joints that called gout. So sometimes uric acid is not soluble in water, then it converts into crystallized form and it is deposited in the joints region, that is called as gout. Or sometimes excess uric acid and certain salts like calcium oxalate may be the source of kidney stone. Here sometimes if the uric acid or some of the salts like calcium oxalate, it may deposit in the kidney region. If we drink the less amount of water, it will not dissolve in the water, so it will remains in the kidney region in a solid form. So that is called as a kidney stone. So gout as well as the kidney stone also because of the less drinking of water. That's why we have to drink sufficient water daily. Next, regulation of urine output. Antidiuretic hormone, or it is called ADH, which is secreted by the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Here antidiuretic hormone, it is one of the important hormone. It is secreted in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. It regulates the concentration of urine by water reabsorption. So it is helpful for the reabsorption of water. It takes place especially in the PCT. So reabsorption, it helpful for the reabsorption of water. If ADH hormone is secreted in the less amount, it leads to an increase in urine output. So if there is a less secretion of ADH hormone, the production of urine will become more because water is not reabsorbed by the PCT. So that's why more amount of water comes out from our body in the form of urine. That's why the urine content will become more. This condition is known as diuresis, and the substances that increase urine formation are called diuretics. Diuretics, it may be the not only the water, it may be the coffee, juice or tea. So whatever we are drinking, that act as a diuretics. So ADH hormone, it is also called as vasopressin. It is secreted in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. It regulates the reabsorption of water in the nephron. If suppose less secretion of ADH hormone, it leads to diuresis, means more amount of urine will passes. Our kidney or our nephron is unable to absorb the water. So that water will come out in the form of urine. That condition is called diuresis, and the substance that increases urine formation, that is called diuretics. Here, so those who are suffering from the diuresis, here the urine will become tasteless. It is due to much water in the urine, and a condition is called diabetes insipidus. It is called as a diuresis, or it is also called as diabetes insipidus. It causes because of the less secretion of ADH hormone. It is not diabetic mellitus, it is a diabetes insipidus. Here urine will become tasteless. So one more condition is there, that is called diabetic mellitus, diabetes mellitus. It is because of the insufficient secretion of insulin hormone. It is not for ADH hormone, it is insufficient secretion of insulin hormone. In that condition, the urine will become sweet taste. The urine will become sweet taste, but if less secretion of ADH hormone, urine will become tasteless. So more detail is there in the endocrine system chapter. Next, osmoregulation. It is one of the important function of the kidney. Osmoregulation is the process which regulates the concentration and osmotic pressure of blood by regulating the water as well as the salt concentration in the blood plasma. Osmoregulation means it is the process of regulation of the concentration and osmotic pressure of blood by regulating the percentage of water and salt in the blood plasma. This is called as osmoregulation. It is an important process as excessive loss of water may cause dehydration, whereas excess of water intake may dilute the body fluids. That's why, so we have to drink how much requirement water is needed for our body, that much only we have to drink. If we drink more also dangerous, if we drink less also dangerous. Drinking enough water directly or through blood helps the kidneys in their proper working. In tropical climates, as in our country, we drink a lot of water during summer. Yet we urinate fewer times in summer than in winter. And the urine passed is generally thicker. Usually in the summer we urinate less time and the urine is thick. But in winter we urine more time and the urine is dilute. What is the reason? The reason is that in summer we lost a considerable part of water through perspiration, and the kidneys have to reabsorb more water from the urine, making it more concentrated. In summer our body will lose the more amount of water in the form of sweat, that we call as a perspiration. So that's why kidney will absorb the water from the urine. When kidney absorb the water from the urine will become more thick because it contains a less amount of water. That is in the summer. But you come to the winter season, perspiration is less amount. Means our body will not lose the more amount of water in the form of sweat. So that's why the more amount of water comes out from our body in the form of urine. The kidney will absorb how much it wants, that much water only it absorbs, because more amount of water we can see in the urine. There is no sweating. So that's why more amount of water will come out from our body in the form of urine only, not in the form of sweat. That's why in winter we urinate more time and urine is very dilute. But in summer we urinate fewer time, means less time, but the urine is more thick. In cholera, the patient suffers from vomiting and watery bowels. His intestines are unable to absorb water into the blood. The result is that his kidneys reabsorb almost all the water from the urine in the renal tubules, and with it even the urea. Ultimately, the patient may die due to the poisoning by the accumulation of high quantities of urea in his body. That condition is called as uremia. The immediate treatment is to replenish water in the body by glucose saline drip or by giving oral rehydration solution, that we call ORS, through the mouth. So those who are suffering from cholera, they will show the continuous vomiting and watery bowels. In that condition, his intestine is unable to absorb the water contained. At that time, the kidney reabsorb almost all the water. When it reabsorb the water, so urea also absorption takes place. When it absorbs the urea will accumulate in the blood and it become the poison, because urea is one of the nitrogenous waste product. So accumulation of urea in the blood is called as uremia. In that condition, so we have to replenish the water in their patient body by giving the drip or by giving the oral rehydration solution through the mouth. Next, artificial kidney. If one kidney is damaged or removed for some reason, the other kidney alone is sufficient for excretory needs and the person can lead a normal life. If one kidney is there, means that kidney is sufficient to do the proper functioning of the two kidneys. But failure of both the kidneys would lead to death. In that condition, patient has to go for the artificial kidney. Artificial kidney is a dialysis machine. The patient blood is led from the radial artery in his arm through the machine, where the urea and excess salts are removed, and the purified blood is returned to a vein in the same arm. In case of permanent damage to the kidneys, dialysis is to be repeated for about 12 hours twice a week. So if both the kidneys fail, in that condition the patient has to subject dialysis. In the dialysis, that machine is there. The machine helps to remove the excess salts as well as the urea content from the blood. After removing the urea content and excess salt from the blood, the same blood is then again inserting inside the patient body with the help of the vein.
Artificial kidney. Hemodialysis. Kidneys are one of the vital organs for the survival. Filtration of urine artificially, other than by kidney, is called hemodialysis. In abnormal or ill health conditions like infections, injury, or restricted blood flow to kidneys will reduce the functions of kidney. This leads to accumulation of poisonous or toxic wastes in the body, sometimes which can even lead to death. In case of kidney failure, an artificial kidney can be used. An artificial kidney is a device which is used to remove nitrogenous waste products from the blood through the process called dialysis. 1. Artificial kidneys contain a number of tubes with a semi-permeable lining suspended in a tank filled with dialyzing fluid. 2. This fluid has the same osmotic pressure as blood, except that it is lack of nitrogenous wastes. 3. One line connected to the artery is connected to the one end of dialysis device, where the blood is collected from patient for filtration. 4. During this passage, the waste products from the blood pass into dialyzing fluid by diffusion. 5. The purified blood is pumped back into the vein of the patient, which is connected to other end of the dialysis device. This is similar to the function of the kidney, but it is different since there is no reabsorption involved. Normally, in a healthy adult, the intake filtrate in the kidneys is about 180 liters a daily. However, the volume actually excreted is only a liter or 2 a day, because the remaining filtrate is reabsorbed in the kidney tubules.